Okay, I've seen that last song many a times in my life. Often at 2 in the morning when they should have been home. They're still out dancing. I've seen that over and over. Sometimes I left before they did. So it's an appropriate song and very good. Thanks. Boy, Sharona caught me off guard a little bit, as she always does. And before I talk about my mom, I want to talk about her partner a little bit. Okay, thank you. Ed probably has more to do with her being 90, making it to 90 years old than any of us here.
Yeah.
And so I just want to say a few words about Ed before I talk about mom. And I think you've been married 41 years, is that right? 41 years.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's a couple of things, Ed, that you would have no way of anticipating that's going to happen in your life when you married my mother. Do you realize that on your wedding day, you would lose the name Ed Bennett and become Pat's husband? You probably got on a horse a few times in your life, but how could you anticipate that you would ride from Crawford, be in the saddle for over a week, wander around the West Elk Wilderness, trying to find the moon bells in Aspen?
Hey Bobby, by the way, there's a lot of aspen trees with Ed and Pat.
Oh yeah. You can't go in those mountains without seeing that. On every mountaintop you can see. I know, I've been there. But wander around in the West Elk Wilderness for over a week, climbing up and down 11,000-foot mountains. You had to realize that the term saddle sore is a mild description of what really takes place. And that maybe you should call it what it really is. Lone hauler's saddle rash or just saddle impairment after that long in a saddle. Probably never knew that, did you? How many trips did you guys make to Aspen from Missouri Flats? 5 or 6.
Wow.
5 or 6 trips from here to Aspen on horses. Sometimes lost, I'm sure. But they found their way. I'm sure you talked about hunting with Mom before signing on the dotted line and becoming her lifelong hunting partner. I don't think you knew how long that was going to be. There is no way you could have realized that with Mom you either fill your tag or you die trying. 24 hours around the clock if necessary. It's only for a weekend. And you thought saddling horses at 3 a.m. to be at the top of those mountains by sunrise was exceptional. But you soon realized that it's just the norm for Mom. Before you married Mom, I don't think you realized that fish can bite in snowstorms, hailstorms, downpours, 100-degree heat, negative 20-degree temperatures, and that a fish bite overrules your frostbite. I think you learned to suck it up and fish it. What does she fish in these conditions? Why does she fish in these conditions, you would ask? I heard you say that a lot of times. Why does she fish? With downpouring rain and taking that camper out and lifting the camper. Why are we going fishing? The answer's always the same, man. Because she can. As a lineman climbing your way to a successful career and becoming one of the top inspectors for WAPA in the western United States, and then turning to one of the most highly recruited bosses for the private sector, I'm sure you dealt with many tough supervisors. losers along the way. However, yeah, I'm getting there. I know. How could you ever imagine that your wife would become the toughest boss you ever loved? It's just not the instructions she gives you. Okay, maybe it is the instructions she gives you. But it's the guilt you feel when you stop working because she's still going to be working. When you thought the workday was over 3 hours ago, no, she's still going to be working. So, but you two have built some amazing things. Your new house, the life, the grandchildren, the legacies. Together, you guys have built. Finally, did you know, Ed, that when your married mom was getting a junkie? There are sports fans, and there are extreme sports fans, and then there's your wife, a sports junkie. What's amazing about that, soon after marrying her, you lost your will to resist her extreme passion for sports and became a sports junkie too. How many thousands of sporting events have you two witnessed? From pee-wees to middle school to high school to college, even professional sports. Today, not only do I get to hear her yell at her beloved Broncos, but you have totally lost your way, Ed. Your comments to this addiction are often heard. So, I want to do a toast to Ed before I talk about Mom. For becoming known as Pat's husband, for every hunting trip you've tackled no matter the stakes, for fishing in hazardous weather conditions, for enduring saddle impairment, and for being a sports junkie for Mom and all your grandkids. I am forever grateful. Most important, thank you for praying with Mom every day. So once again, even when it's Ed's turn, that was Mom's turn anyway. So Ed thinks he's getting the turn. That was pretty much about Mom. But anyway, Mama, it's moments that make a lifetime. And I've said that. I've told my kids 1,000 times. It's just a moment. It's a lifetime, though. That's what makes your life, moments. And I look at the incredible journey you've been on, and I've witnessed it. And for most, they could not have experienced all the moments you had unless they had several lifetimes. From a small town graduate of Crawford High School, you went to an all-women's business college in Denver. You married a Crawford boy, an Army sergeant who had just served in the Korean War. The newlyweds moved to Alaska, which was truly the final frontier in America at the time. It was a true wilderness, a fisherman's and hunter's dream. For you, I'm sure you thought you were living in paradise. Endless hunts where caribou, moose, bear, sheep, and various wildlife could be found in great numbers. Endless salmon runs, then in a few days of fishing you could produce enough fish for the year. You became the secretary for Chudiak High School. You and Dad built a brand new house. The land you lived on today, that whole section of land is known as Reed's Subdivision up there in Chudiak. The Norfolk Valley in Crawford called you home, and you and Dad moved back, bought the land and built the home at our present gathering. It was in 1964, I believe. Through the years, you have been so blessed to have raised your kids in this house, and able to take all your grandkids on camping trips, fishing trips, watched all their dance, music, and honors programs, and shared a lifestyle and a community that you loved with your family. Today, I think the youngest are here, and Adiana, that's my mom's, you got Jackson there. Adiana's right here, my mom's great-granddaughter. And then Jackson, she's holding his mom's youngest great-great-grandson right there, Jackson. And where's Josie?
She's inside with Dad.
Yeah, you better know where she's at. Okay. Uh, that little girl can move.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Um, you started a new chapter in your life 41 years ago with Ed. You built a life together and always given of your time, money, and love to your family and your community. Although I talked about Ed, you heard all about your characteristics that make you an independent and strong woman. But now, I want to tell you some stories. That is the guiding force in my, in my mom's life. The first story is about the second largest earthquake in Alaska in 1964. Probably one of the reasons we moved back down here. But it measured 9.2 on the Richter scale, and it lasted for 4 minutes and 38 seconds. The biggest earthquake was in 1960, 4 years earlier in Chile, and it lasted 10 minutes. So we were in the second biggest earthquake ever recorded. Of course, last week the fourth biggest earthquake was recorded in Russia. I think it was at 8.8 or something like that. But here's what I witnessed during that. I'm 3 years old. You don't remember too many things at 3, but you're gonna remember this because it was traumatic. We had a piano on wheels, and of course during an earthquake, the ground rolls. And Mom and Dad immediately were trying to keep that piano from smashing into their china closet and breaking out windows and things like that. After a few seconds of that, they realized that doesn't matter. This is bad. It's a life-death situation. So Dad got us to the doorway, which is the strongest part of the house. And by this time, I'm wrapped around up on his shoulders, choking him out. I'm scared. But he thought we could make it to the car. We open the door, and the trees are slapping the ground. Just as the ground rolls, the trees slap the ground. And so, no, you're going to get smashed like a mouse in that game. So we stayed right there, and then the praying started. And I've heard a lot of preachers pray. I've heard Billy Graham. I've heard a lot of local preachers, but I've never heard praying like that in my life. And after that earthquake, most of Anchorage was demolished, and all the houses around us. There was one house that stood, and it was ours. And so, Mom's a prayer warrior. There's no doubt. Oh yeah. We moved back to Alaska, to Crawford here, after that earthquake, and one of Mom's passions was playing basketball. If they would have had girls sports back there, she would have been up on my wall. But that's all the kids that won state champions that I have are on my wall. Mom would have made it. There's no doubt. On Wednesday nights, we would go out and play basketball, and I loved there's two things I look forward to: WWF on Monday night and playing basketball in Crawford Gym on Wednesday night. Mom started a women's league, and so I loved doing it. So every Wednesday, I loved it. And then Wednesday came, and she said I couldn't go. And I'm like in 4th, 5th grade, and I'm throwing a fit, and I'm mad, and I'm bawling. She goes, no, you're staying home. She didn't say why. She said, you're staying home. So I stayed home, and it wasn't an hour later. We heard a few minutes later, we heard the cops go by. Mom hit 5 horses on the highway. Now, some people say she hit 3 on the highway and then went up in the field and got 2 more. But I think she got them all right there, all 5 of them. One of them came through the passenger side, right where I would have been, and wiped out that whole side. So definitely, God had a hand in that decision too. It was the only time I didn't get to go with her. The third story I want to talk to you about is Ed's big adventure. And I'm sorry, Ed. Gotta embarrass you on this a little bit, but that's okay. Just haven't done it in front of a bunch of people. Ed's a hunter. Of course, he's become a really good hunter now. But we're up in Cure Canyon. Donna spent a lot of times up there with her family. And in fact, Donna's nephew got lost in the same snowstorm that Ed got lost. And I think we narrowed it down to this is like 1985 or 86, somewhere right in there. And I was getting my teaching certificate up in Boulder and came back. I was at home for the weekend, but they were gone hunting. That didn't matter. They could stay out a week or two hunting. But Mom came home and I could tell right away she was making a beeline for me, and I could see by her face something was wrong. And she goes, Ed's lost. He got lost 3 days ago. And it has snowed over 5 foot up in Cure Canyon, Soap Creek area. And she looks at me and she goes, I need you to get your horse and go find him. That's a directive. That's a power memo. And so I said, well, what's gone on? And she said, there's been a search and rescue team out there for 3 days. They haven't found him. They found Fidel Olivas', Donna Flynn's nephew, after the first day, but they haven't found Dad. So, yeah, I'm going to go up there and find Dad, because Mom said so. So I asked my high school wrestling partner, Fidel Olivas, to come with me. Of course, they lived right down the road in the Blue House, and Fidel got his horse, and I got mine, and we got in the horse trailer, and we went up there. Rough, just getting the horses up to the trail at that point in time. But we made it, and we searched that whole day, the 4th day, and we didn't find Dad. So we went out the 5th day, and we didn't find Dad. So he's been out in the snow for 5 days, and by this time the snow's about up to your chest if you walk out there. The horses were jumping, you know, to navigate where they were going. You really couldn't move. But at dark on the 5th day, we were all in camp and heard 3 shots up the head of Soap Creek. You could barely hear them. So far away, you could barely hear them. And I looked at that leader from the rescue team, and I said, that's him. He's at the top of Soap Creek. He's up on there. He's up there. Let's go. The guy looked at me and he said, we don't go out after dark. Okay? And I looked at Fidel and he goes, I got my horse. So Fidel and I got lanterns, we got warm clothes, we got stuff to build fires, we got first aid stuff. And we started up the pass towards Soap Creek. And Cure Canyon goes east, and at the top it drops over, and then you can drop into Soap Creek. We're heading east, and the horses aren't moving too good. We rode about an hour or two, and we're looking, and pushing down in the valley, I see what I thought was a figure, but I wasn't for sure, and so we took the horses, got off the horses, because they're not going to come off the trail, but we drug them down there, and sure enough, there's Ed. He's in the snow, about up to here, and he looks like that movie Frozen, the guy. But we got the snow packed down around him and built the fire, and we got his pants off, and they just stood up by themselves, and his shirt stood up. Everything was frozen. and we got him a little warm, and we got him on a horse, and we brought him back in. But once again, that was divine presence, and Mom just coming home and saying, "We're gonna find him." Mom and Ed horse fish and hunt. Mom's an extremist, and she's a risk taker. Even at 90, she scares me, and that's hard to do, but she does it. They were fishing in the Gunnison River where Ray Canyon meets the Gunnison, and she was out in the middle of it for some reason fishing, and they turned out a bunch of water up at Mara Point down, and it caught her out in it and washed her. Ed washed away down the river, and Ed comes back and tells me my Mom got washed. It turned down water, and she got washed down back in. And sure enough, that's what happened. But once again, I think God's hand was on her. Yeah. She got swept down half a mile, walked out into Olathe. Finally, so as you can see by these stories, and my mom's a cancer survivor of five different cancers. She's come up off her deathbed and faced and prayed and beat that terrible disease, not once but 5 times. And so I think you understand the guiding force in my mother's life. And the reason she is the way she is because of divine intervention and because she's such a prayer warrior. And just love you, Mom. Happy birthday. Appreciate all you've done for our family. And it's been a real privilege to watch your courage and just all the things that you've done. And so, Dave, do you want to...
Is Grandpa Ed?
Oh, Grandpa Ed, yes. You are last on the agenda.
And then Dave.
Do you want to say something?
All I can say is about all the stories are about fruit. I remember when I first met her, we kind of social. And I seen her, and this tip was shut down. I haven't already figured out there's a 5.5 year difference between us. And when I seen her, I said, "Oh, that's the one I want." Because it was a woman. She had her dress on. You know, I said, "I'm not selling that dress, but the dress was still got it." And so anyway, off and on, I was working out of town, we met each other, and back and forth. I finally invited her to come over to my place, and I was her my egg tacos. And I thought, well, she didn't tell me she's allergic to eggs. I went over there and I was all excited. She threw up. She was so embarrassed. I was embarrassed. I thought it was my cooking. Everything I ever did was always a problem. She invites me up to the house. I'm going to show her how I'm going to get on the horse. "You have a horse?" "Oh yeah, my daughter's got a horse." I grabbed a hold of that mane. I'm going to swing my leg up on that horse. Lo and behold, I stepped in some horse manure, slid underneath that horse, and there I was underneath that horse, and the only thing that horse could have done was urinate on me. I look up, and Pat's got her head going down, like something's wet in my face, and she is laughing so hard, tears are coming out of her eyes. And it seemed like everything I ever did around her, and I had a lot of guys that asked me, "How did you ever get her to marry you?" And I tell everybody she married me out of pity. She was sorry. And we do have a lot of stories to tell. We had a lot of good times together. And I would say the biggest thing, Pat has I was a drinker at the time, and this and that. I married Pat. The day I married Pat, I stopped drinking. She brought me to the Lord Jesus Christ as my personal Savior, and she done so much for me. And thank you, Lord.